discover 5 feminine emotional vulnerabilities that, once you master them, grant you an almost unfair advantage with women. While some men are begging for attention like starved dogs, those who understand these vulnerabilities can have women eating out of the palm of their hand. Machiavelli knew that whoever controls the information controls the game. This is the information that changes everything. These are emotional weaknesses, so profound they seem etched into their very DNA. And when you master them, they find it impossible to resist, even if they try. So go ahead and like this video, and let's get to what truly matters. The first emotional vulnerability you must master is the most powerful of all: the addiction to validation. And when I say addiction, I'm not exaggerating. It's quite literally a chemical dependency. Every time a woman receives a compliment, a text message, or a look of admiration, her brain releases dopamine. This is the same chemical produced by cocaine, just in smaller doses. But here is the detail that the vast majority of men will never grasp. Like any drug, validation loses its power when it's administered constantly. Have you ever noticed how the most beautiful women often end up with men who treat them with a degree of indifference? This isn't a coincidence, it's pure chemistry. When you bombard a woman with constant praise, her brain habituates to that dopamine dose. It builds a tolerance. What once thrilled her now simply bores her. But this is where it gets interesting. When you scale back that validation, when you make it scarce, her brain goes into a desperate search mode. It's like taking a cigarette from a smoker. She needs that fix and will do almost anything to get it. Picture validation as a bank account. Every compliment is a deposit. Every moment of indifference is a withdrawal. Desperate men make massive deposits thinking this will win her love. This is a fatal mistake. Women require an account that fluctuates, one that keeps them on edge, wondering when their next payout will be. The golden rule is the 70-30 principle. Show interest and approval 70% of the time. Maintain 30% for mystery and unpredictability. When you tell her, "You look incredible tonight," make sure it's specific and earned. When you say, "You always look good," it sounds disingenuous and deflates its own value. And here's the trick that separates the amateurs from the masters. Do not constantly praise her physical beauty. Praise her intelligence when she says something insightful, her creativity when she cooks a delicious meal, her courage when she makes a tough decision. These compliments land on a deeper level because they target her need to feel valued for who she truly is, not just what she looks like. Machiavelli understood that power doesn't come from giving everything away at once, but from strategically managing resources. With a woman, validation is your most precious resource. Manage it like a smart investor, not a desperate gambler. But be careful, there is a dangerous line between creating intrigue and creating insecurity. If you withhold too much validation for too long, you won't be creating attraction. You'll be creating resentment. The key lies in the balance, in keeping her just fed enough to feel secure, but just hungry enough to always want more. And by the way, if this information is opening your eyes as much as I think it is, you should definitely subscribe to the channel. These are the secrets most men will never know, and I'm going to share with you the most profound strategies I've discovered through years of study. Don't miss what's coming, because just wait until you discover the second emotional vulnerability. It's even more potent than validation addiction, and it concerns something all women crave, yet paradoxically, it bores them once they have it. It's the trap that 90% of men fall into without even realizing it. Remember that emotional trap I mentioned? Here it is. Women claim they want security and certainty, but their brains are set on fire by uncertainty. It's the cruelest paradox in female psychology. Consider it for a moment. How many times have you seen a woman lose interest in a man who gives her all the attention in the world? who replies to her messages instantly, who plans every detail of their lives. It's as if total clarity is poison to attraction. There's a psychological phenomenon known as the Zeigarnik effect. Our brain becomes obsessed with incomplete tasks and unanswered questions. Women are no different. When they can predict your every move, when they know exactly what to expect from you, their mind relaxes. And a relaxed mind is a bored mind. Here is the secret that the most attractive men know instinctively. You must reveal your life as if it were an addictive television series. Provide enough information to keep her hooked, but always leave questions unanswered. There's always a to be continued in the next episode. The rule of thumb is simple. Show 70% of who you are. Keep 30% in the shadows. I'm not talking about lying or creating a false identity. I'm talking about strategically rationing information about yourself. When she asks about your past, give her a few interesting details, but not the whole story. When you discuss your future plans, share your vision, but not every step of the journey. Machiavelli understood that power resided as much in what was revealed as in what remained concealed. A prince who showed all his cards lost his ability to maneuver. A woman who can read you completely loses the incentive to explore who you truly are. But here is the crucial difference between mystery and manipulation. Genuine mystery comes from having a rich and interesting life that naturally has layers. If you have to invent stories or create artificial drama, you're on the wrong path. Authentic mystery arises from being someone who is genuinely building something meaningful with his life. Want a practical example? When she asks what you did today, instead of giving a detailed report of every activity, you could say, "I had an interesting meeting that might change a few things for me." And then you change the subject. Her mind will immediately wonder, what meeting? What things? How will it affect him? Or when you talk about your work, don't explain every detail of your daily routine. Share your passion for what you do. Tell an intriguing anecdote, but let her ask for more if she wants to know the specifics. She is discovering who you are, not reading your complete biography. The true power of this emotional vulnerability is activated when you combine uncertainty with moments of genuine revelation. It's like giving a sip of water to someone who is thirsty, but not the whole bottle. Each revelation satisfies her temporarily, but leaves her thirstier to know you. And here is the perfect timing. You have about 90 days to prove that you are someone worth discovering. 90 days to demonstrate that your mystery isn't empty, but is backed by real substance. After that period, if you haven't shown authentic value, the mystery turns into frustration. But when you master this paradox, when you learn to be transparent without being predictable, interesting without being obvious, and accessible without being constantly available, something powerful occurs. She begins to invest mental energy in you. She starts wondering about you when you're not around. She starts seeking you out instead of you seeking her. However, a third emotional vulnerability exists that is even deeper than the previous two. And this one is the most dangerous of all, because it touches on something so instinctual in the female nature that when you activate it correctly, it can create an obsession that lasts for years. It relates to something all women publicly deny but are consumed by in private. Here is the truth that women will never admit in public. Nothing piques their interest in you more than knowing that other women desire you. It's their purest, most primal competitive instinct. Just observe this for a week. Notice how a woman's attitude toward a man changes the moment another woman shows interest in him. It's as if a switch flips in her brain. Suddenly, the man who was just a friend becomes someone worth conquering. For thousands of years, women have evolved to identify and compete for the highest value men. And one of the clearest signals that a man has value is that other women recognize him as such. It's like an automatic social validation system. If other women want him, there must be something special about him. Here is the fact that changes everything. When a woman perceives that you are scarce, that you are not available to just anyone, her brain interprets this as a sign of high value. It's not that you're playing hard to get out of whim. It's that you have options, and that intrigues her deeply. Machiavelli knew that the most valuable allies are those who are also courted by others. A prince with multiple alliances held more power than one who depended on a single relationship. The same principle applies to the dynamics between men and women, but here is the delicate part. I'm not talking about shamelessly flirting with other women in front of her. That is clumsy and obvious. I'm referring to something far more subtle and powerful. It's about being naturally attractive to women because you have an interesting life, because you are someone who commands genuine respect and admiration. When you arrive at a social gathering and women feel comfortable talking to you, when they seek your advice, when they laugh genuinely at your comments, she notices. You don't need to do anything artificial. Your social value speaks for itself. The trick is to be cordial and charming with other women, but without crossing any lines. It's about showing that you are the type of man women seek, but that you have chosen to be with her. This distinction is crucial. It's not that you are the only one available. It's that among all the options you have, you chose her. And here comes the most interesting part. When a woman feels she could lose you, when she perceives that you are not desperately dependent on her attention, something chemical happens in her brain. Her retention instinct is activated. She begins to try harder, to invest more energy in the relationship. But be wary of this emotional vulnerability, as it is a double-edged sword. If you overdo it, if you constantly give her the impression she is competing for your attention, you will create toxic insecurity. If you do it too little, if you are too available and predictable, you will lose her interest entirely. The key is in the balance. She must occasionally feel that you have options, that you are desired, that you could be with someone else, but you choose to be with her. This isn't achieved by being a jerk or treating her poorly. It's achieved by being genuinely valuable, by having a rich life that naturally attracts other people. Want a practical example? If you're at a social event and a woman approaches to ask you something, respond in a friendly and natural way. Don't ignore her to show loyalty, but don't flirt to provoke jealousy either. Simply be yourself, interesting, charismatic, approachable. She will observe how other women respond to you, and that will feed her perception of your value. Another example. When she tells you about a problem, don't become her personal therapist available 24/7. Listen to her, support her, but maintain your own life and your own priorities. This shows her that you are a valuable resource, not a free service. So far, we have covered 3 powerful emotional vulnerabilities: the addiction to validation, the paradox of uncertainty, and the competitive instinct. Each of these can dramatically change how women perceive and respond to you. But the last 2 vulnerabilities I'm about to reveal are the most profound and sophisticated. They are what separate ordinary men from those who truly understand female psychology on a master level. And the 4th vulnerability has to do with something all women desperately seek, but that very few men know how to provide correctly. Here are the 2 most devastating emotional vulnerabilities you can master. They are so powerful that once you understand them, you will never interact with women the same way again. The 4th vulnerability is emotional leadership. And here is the crucial difference that 95% of men fail to understand. Women don't need you to rescue them from their problems. They need you to be their emotional anchor during the storms. When a woman tells you about a bad day at work, Her instinct isn't for you to solve the problem. Her deepest need is to feel that there is someone solid, calm, and stable by her side. Someone who doesn't waver when she wavers. Machiavelli understood that true power lay not in controlling every situation, but in maintaining composure while others lost theirs. A leader who remained serene during crises inspired trust and loyalty. With women, the same principle applies in an amplified way. Here is the mistake most men make. When she is stressed, they get stressed. When she is anxious, they become anxious. When she is scared, they panic, trying to fix everything. They are reacting instead of leading. Emotional leadership means that your internal state is not dependent on her internal state. If she comes home frustrated, you remain calm. If she is worried about something, you maintain perspective. Not because you don't care, but because someone has to be the rock upon which she can rest. But here is the most important part. It's not about being cold or disconnected. It's about being the calming presence she needs. When she tells you about her problem, instead of immediately jumping to offer solutions, you say something like, "That sounds really frustrating. Tell me more about what happened." You are demonstrating that you can handle her emotions without them overwhelming you. You are creating a safe space where she can express herself without feeling she is also burdened with your emotional reactions. And here comes the fifth and final vulnerability: psychological personalization. This is the most sophisticated of all because it requires you to truly understand the specific woman in front of you. Not all women are the same. Some are more sensitive to validation, others to uncertainty, others to competition. Your job is to identify her dominant emotional weakness and customize your approach accordingly. How do you do this? By observing. If she constantly seeks your approval, if she asks how she looks, if she needs confirmation on her decisions, her dominant vulnerability is validation. Manage your compliments strategically. If she always wants to know what you're thinking, if she gets frustrated when you don't respond immediately, if she asks many questions about your past or plans, her dominant vulnerability is uncertainty. Maintain that 30% of mystery that keeps her hooked. If she constantly mentions other women, if she asks about your exes, if she gets jealous when you talk to other women, her dominant vulnerability is competition. Make sure she feels chosen but not overly secure. The key is to not apply the same techniques to all women, as if they were robots. Each one has her own emotional configuration, her own history, her own insecurities and strengths. But here is the fundamental point that separates ethical men from manipulators. The goal is not to exploit these vulnerabilities to control or hurt. The goal is to understand them, to connect more deeply, and create more fulfilling relationships for both of you. When you understand that her need for validation comes from deep-seated insecurities, you don't judge her for it. You help her feel more secure in a genuine way. When you understand that her need for certainty comes from past experiences where she was hurt, you don't play with that vulnerability. You reassure her authentically. These emotional vulnerabilities are not flaws to be exploited. They are human characteristics that, when you understand and honor them, allow you to be the man she truly needs. Not the man who controls her, but the man who understands her so profoundly that he can love her in the way she most needs to be loved. And when you achieve this, when you combine all these emotional vulnerabilities with genuine integrity and authentic personal growth, something magical happens. You don't just win her attraction, you win her respect. You don't just capture her interest, you capture her loyalty. You don't just conquer her heart, you conquer her soul. But mastering these vulnerabilities is only the beginning. The real power comes from applying them with wisdom, with ethics, and with a real commitment to your own development as a man. You now know the 5 emotional vulnerabilities that give you an unfair advantage. validation, uncertainty, competition, emotional leadership, and psychological personalization. But remember, these weapons are useless if you don't work on becoming the man who deserves to use them. Your task is simple. Choose one vulnerability and master it over the next 7 days. Observe how everything changes when you understand the female mind better than they do themselves. If this knowledge transformed you as much as I hope, subscribe and share a piece of advice in the comments that could help other men. Shared power is multiplied. The game is just beginning.